What's up YouTube? Welcome back to Celio's Network. Today I'm going to talk about some of the cards recently revealed in the Japanese sets Singlestrike and Rapidstrike Masters, which will largely make up the North American set Battle Styles coming out on March 19th. If you have not seen the full set reveal, I do have a video on that where we discuss the cards quite in depth. And I'll also leave a link to the Coco V link that has the full set revealed and translated on that. I should say as a disclaimer, we do not have the full Battle Styles American set list yet, so some of these cards may not be included, or there might be other cards included. I also have a video from yesterday about that, kind of speculating on some of those kinds of things. So with that all out of the way, let's take a more in-depth look at some of the cards that I either skimmed over or didn't talk about as much in depth as I would have liked to in the set review. And we'll talk about some deck ideas and just in general some of the cards that I think are really good coming out in the Singlestrike Rapidstrike Master sets. First, of course, shout out to PotownStore.com, the best place for you to get PTCGO codes, and be sure to use code CELIO for 5% off. So first, let's talk about one of the most obvious good cards out of the set, which is Rapidstrike Urshifu VMAX. So Rapidstrike Urshifu VMAX has 330 HP. Of course, it evolves from Rapidstrike Urshifu V, and it has two really good attacks. The first one is Gale Thrust. It does 30 damage plus for 1 fighting energy. If this Pokemon moved from your bench to the active this turn, this attack does 120 more damage. So that's doing 150 for just 1 fighting energy, outclassing the previous Colossal VMAX, which did 130 for 1 fighting energy. It then also has the attack Gmax Rapid Flow for 2 fighting and a colorless. Discard all energy from this Pokemon, and you do 120 to 2 of your opponent's Pokemon. So now I can go into the card design of this, which I have in other videos, but I'll just keep that part brief and say this is a really well designed card as far as 3 prize giant Pokemon go. Gmax Rapid Flow is its bigger attack in quotes, which costs more energy and you have to discard energy, but it's not really one-shotting big Pokemon. It could one-shot a Pikarom in the active due to weakness, but it's a much more tactical move than I'm used to seeing on VMAXs, so that was a pleasant surprise. Gale Thrust as well being kind of a buffed up first impression, which we saw on Golisopod GX in Burning Shadows. This is just a stronger version of that, and I think it's a really good attack as well. So I love Urshifu VMAX Rapidstrike, and it's got some great support. I think the most looked at support for this card is the Rapidstrike Energy, which provides 2 energy, water, and fighting of any combination. So that's definitely going to be used in any Rapidstrike Urshifu VMAX deck. But the other 3 cards here I have on the screen are cards I haven't seen. Well, actually, I'm sorry, Mustard definitely is being talked about, but I haven't seen Empoleon V and the Rapidstrike Stadium being talked about a lot. So let's discuss those a bit. Empoleon V, now it's not an amazingly strong card, but it is decent for 2 reasons actually. Actually 3 reasons. So Empoleon V, 210 HP water Rapidstrike Pokemon. It has the ability Emperor's Eyes. As long as this Pokemon is in the active spot, your opponent's basic Pokemon in play have no abilities except for Pokemon with a rule box. So this does not shut off Pokemon V, GX, Prism rule boxes. It shuts off regular Pokemon's rule boxes, so things like Jirachi from Team Up, Amazing Rare Jirachi, the new Celebi and Manaphy that we're likely getting in Shining Fates, things like that. It has 2 Retreat, which is also noticeable because the Water Tower Stadium, which I believe it's called, gives your Rapidstrike Pokemon 2 less Retreat. And this namely, or notably, couldn't be disrupted by something like Absol from Team Up, right? Because Absol from Team Up would add 1 Retreat, so Empoleon wouldn't get free Retreat anymore from the Stadium, but Emperor's Eyes shuts off Absol's ability, so I think that's something neat to mention as well. And it has the attack Swirling Slice for water colorless. It does 130, and you move an energy from this Pokemon to one of your benched Pokemon. So that could be Rapidstrike Energy, moving from Empoleon V to either Urshifu V or Urshifu V Max. So those attributes combined, I think, make Empoleon a solid card. It has the ability, it has 2 retreat, which pairs well with the stadium, and it has the swirling slice attack for 130, and you get to save an energy, put it on one of your benched Pokemon. So how does that pair with Urshifu VMAX? Well, if you're using the Mustard supporter, which we will get to in just a moment, to try to get a turn 1 Urshifu VMAX on the board going second, Empoleon V is a great Pokemon to start with since it has free retreat, and your stadium allows it to retreat for... I'm sorry, it has 2 retreat, and your stadium allows it to retreat for free if you go first. Namely, if you're choosing... You'll usually be choosing to go second with this deck, right? If you're building it for the Mustard. But if your opponent chooses to go second and you go first with Empoleon V in the active, you could potentially shut off Pokemon like Jirachi, Team Up Jirachi, Amazing Rare. If those cards are being played a lot, then that will be a reason to play Empoleon V even more. So the Mustard supporter is quite like Maxie's and Archie's. It's almost exactly like it. So if you can only play the supporter if it's the last card in your hand, and you can put a Rapidstrike Pokemon from your discard pile to your bench and then draw cards until you have 5. So you get to slap Urshifu VMAX straight onto the bench from the discard and then draw 5 cards. Now, if you whiff that combo, I imagine it would be quite nice to just sit an Empoleon V out in the active to turn off any abilities that might help your opponent, like Primate Wisdom, the Jirachis, Mewtwo. You know, we've talked about this. While you just power up an Urshifu V the old-fashioned way. Then maybe next turn you even get a second Urshifu VMAX with Mustard. You evolve one and get one with Mustard supporter as well. Now, another thing I was thinking about was, against fire decks, which are weak to water, Empoleon V could be a good backup attacker with Swirling Slice and then move an energy to another Empoleon V or to Rapidstrike Urshifu. It could also be solid versus Zamazenta V that cannot be attacked by VMAX Pokemon. So this Empoleon would hit with Swirling Slice for just an energy plus Rapidstrike energy. But wait, Zamazenta removes special energy, so that would be terrible. Swirling Slice moves that energy from itself to a bench Pokemon. So you could just chain Empoleon Vs against Zamazenta and try to wear that down to get through that. Maybe your opponent will be forced to bench a Zacian or something at some point, and you can then start attacking other things with Urshifu VMAX. Just a couple of thoughts. I really like Empoleon as a Pokemon, and I usually like its cards as well, so I'd really like to see it try to get play, and I think this is a neat little idea for a Rapidstrike Urshifu VMAX deck. Next, we'll look at Singlestrike Urshifu VMAX. Now, this one is not as obviously good, I don't think. At least to a lot of people talking about it. I've seen plenty of opinions across social media that, you know, Rapidstrike's obviously the better Urshifu. Rapidstrike's going to see play. Singlestrike Urshifu isn't that good. I think Singlestrike Urshifu, by itself in a vacuum, looks like a decent card. But then you add in Houndoom, Singlestrike Energy, Singlestrike Mustard, and the Singlestrike Scroll. I think the Singlestrike Scroll, which is this TM looking card here that adds an attack to your Pokemon, I think that just pushes Urshifu above and beyond. Now, this is all theory. I have not tested the cards yet, but let's talk about that. So, Houndoom, once during your turn, you may search your deck for a Singlestrike Energy attached to one of your Singlestrike Pokemon. Shuffle your deck. If you attach an energy in this way, put 2 damage counters on the Pokemon you attach it to. Great. So, Houndoom accelerates Singlestrike Energy. What does Singlestrike Energy do, you may be asking? Well, if you don't already know, Singlestrike Energy provides a fighting or dark energy, but only one at a time, and it makes your Singlestrike Pokemon do 20 more damage. So, Singlestrike Urshifu already does a ton of damage, but Singlestrike Energy, slap a couple of these on, Gmax 1 blows doing 310 instead. We didn't talk about the Singlestrike attack. I imagine if you're watching this video, you've already seen what Singlestrike Urshifu VMAX does, but I'll just quickly go over. Gmax 1 blow for 4 energy does 270. You have to discard all energy from this Pokemon, and the attack goes through everything. It goes through Decidueye, goes through Zamazenta, the whole 9. Then we have Emboar over here, which is a stage 2 Pokemon, but it could be retrieved from the deck with this Singlestrike Mustard supporter, which we'll get to next. Emboar has the ability your Singlestrike Pokemon's attacks do 30 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. So this would be great to have as a bench sitter. Now, Singlestrike Mustard is slightly different than Rapidstrike Mustard. Singlestrike Mustard allows you to, if it's the last card in your hand, of course, you can search your deck for a Singlestrike Pokemon, put it onto your bench, then draw 5. So slightly different. Now, I've already seen the argument that you wouldn't play Emboar since Houndoom can search out a Singlestrike energy and attach it to your Singlestrike Pokemon, and that Singlestrike energy makes you do 20 more damage. Emboar makes you do 30 more damage. So why would you get Emboar when you can get Houndoom that accelerates an energy and does more damage? There's a couple reasons. So one, if you're playing a 4-4 Houndoom, 4-3 Houndoom, 3-3 Houndoom, whatever it may be, you're going to get your Singlestrike energy out pretty quickly. You can only play 4 because it's a special energy. Now, there is an item card that shuffles them back into your deck, but you have to find that. And you might also have all of your Singlestrike energy on the board. They might not get discarded yet. So I do believe there will come a time when Emboar can push you past your previous damage output threshold that Houndoom can't, because you're out of Singlestrike energies. Or you also can't attach more Singlestrike energies with Houndoom, or you'll knock out your own Pokemon, since it does put 2 damage counters on when you attach it. So I envision this deck potentially running 1 Emboar. So let's say you've evolved an Urshifu VMAX, you've evolved 2 Houndooms, and then you've Singlestrike mustarded out another Houndoom. So you have 3 Houndooms on the board now. That third Houndoom might end up actually not getting used. If you've already attached a couple times per turn, you've already used a couple Singlestrike Roars. Maybe when that Pokemon gets knocked out, you only need to use 2 more Singlestrike Roars. So at that point, Emboar might actually be more efficient to do that 30 more damage without needing to have a Singlestrike energy left over to attach, without having to put 2 damage counters onto your Pokemon that you're attaching it to. So I think Emboar might be able to see play, because after your first Singlestrike Mustard, maybe you make your next Singlestrike Mustard. If you can hit it again, you just make it that time to get out Emboar, so you do more damage. Hopefully we'll also see cards like Gallade and Archaeops and the Diving Draw and Polion, which were great Archies and Maxies targets that either gave you consistency or disrupted your opponent in some way. So hopefully we'll see those kinds of things as well. I would love to see that. So the Singlestrike Tower allows you, it's pretty simple. You can just discard a Singlestrike card and draw 2 cards. So that's decent. Now, getting to the scroll. The scroll is why I think Singlestrike Urshifu VMAX goes from good to great. And why is that? The Singlestrike scroll, I'll probably refer to it as a technical machine or a TM or something like that at some point, because like in the video games, you use TMs to teach your Pokemon moves. There used to be TM cards in the game as well. So you attach this tool to one of your Singlestrike Pokemon, and it gains this Rage attack. For a fighting energy, you do 10 plus more damage for each damage counter on this Pokemon. So maybe immediately this doesn't sound great. I think this is amazing, because if you use Gmax 1 blow to one-shot something and you have to discard all energy from your Pokemon, they hit you back for a ton of damage, right? Maybe it's so much damage that if you Singlestrike roared more Singlestrike energy onto your Urshifu, you'd knock yourself out. So you can't use Gmax 1 blow again. Beatdown sucks. You don't want to use Beatdown. But your opponent did a ton of damage to you next turn. What are you going to do? You can attach the scroll and use Rage attack or Fury, whatever it's called. I forget what the translation is, and do a ton of damage to your opponent for just 1 energy. Maybe you can even do that much damage plus 20 because you have a Singlestrike energy. Maybe you could do that much damage plus 50 because you have a Singlestrike energy and an Emboar. Maybe you could do that much damage plus 70 because you do all that damage, Singlestrike energy, Emboar, and you Singlestrike Roar and energy out from your deck to put 2 more damage counters on yourself to even bump up that threshold even more. So I think Singlestrike Urshifu VMAX is being overlooked. That's the point of this slide. Next, we've got Flapple V and Flapple VMAX. Now, Flapple VMAX is pretty darn bad, but it has more HP than Flapple V, and HP tends to be good. It tends to be good to have just, a bigger Pokemon. So, Flapple V has a very cool attack. It has Sour Saliva for 1 grass energy. It does 20 damage, and during your opponent's next turn, the defending Pokemon's attacks cost colorless more. You may be saying, why Celio? I can use Switch. I can use the new Escape Rope reprint in this set. I can attach Air Balloon and retreat my Pokemon. I would say yes, you're right about all of those things. That's why I think this card could potentially be paired with Omastar, with the ability Fossil Bind that reads, as long as you have fewer Pokemon in play than your opponent, they can't play any item cards from their hand. In my opinion, all of the cards that make Sour Saliva seem like a bad attack are item cards. Switch, Escape Rope, Air Balloon, etc. If you can stop them from playing items, then Sour Saliva might actually be pretty darn good. So what I'm thinking here is we evolve the Flapple V into Flapple V Max. We use Memory Capsule so we can use the previous attacks. We can use the attacks of previous evolutions, so we can still use Sour Saliva although we are evolved. We get Omastar out so our opponent can't play items. We remove their energy with Yell Grunt, Crushing Hammer, the new fan Rapidstrike card I have here on the screen, which I don't remember the name of at the very moment, but it reads you can get a special energy from one of your opponent's Pokemon and put it on the bottom of their deck. So it's like Enhanced Hammer put to the bottom of the deck. And then this last card, Cheryl, which fully heals all of your evolved Pokemon with damage on them. You do have to discard the energy attached to those evolved Pokemon, but if we're just attaching one energy and saying Sour Saliva, we might not care. And we can even build up to use Flapple VMAX's 250 damage attack, Grass Colorless to do 250. And then it does minus 10 damage for every damage counter on this Pokemon. It's not a very good attack at all. But this idea that I have here is solely based around Sour Saliva, just locking your opponent out, doing a little bit of chip damage at a time. I think I've seen other people on the internet talk about this. I don't think it's too hard of a deck idea to come up with. I've just kind of elaborated on it a little bit more with the hammers, the Yell Grunts, the fan, the Cheryl, the Memory Capsule, using the big boy for more HP. So I think this is interesting. I love Sour Saliva, but the problem is Switch and Escape Rope and Air Balloon and everything. The mobility that you can have in the game right now just completely invalidates these kinds of effects because switching takes it off. But if you can stop them from playing items, maybe it is good. The last specific thing I want to look at in this video is Coco V and Coco V Max. I think Coco V might be one of the best cards in the set, at least while Pikarom is around. So Coco V has the attack Spiral Thunder. Lightning Colorless does 20 plus damage. This attack does 40 more damage for each energy attached to all of your opponent's Pokemon. I think this is pretty crazy because if your opponent goes Electrify to their Pika, you go Electrify to your Coco V, and they full blitz, their Pikarom's knocked out by a 2-prize Pokemon, and they don't want that to happen. Now, Spiral Thunder is very, very strong against Energy Acceleration decks. What's amazing about this line is that the Coco V and the Coco V Max are useful for different reasons. Coco V punishes your opponent for going aggro with their energy. Coco V Max can potentially punish your opponent for taking the first prize, or if you can pop like an Electrode and force your opponent to take prizes. So Max Shock for Lightning Colorless does 180 damage, and if you have more prize cards remaining to your opponent's active Pokemon is now paralyzed. So I think this is really great. Raichu Tag Team has been a dominant force with paralysis for a while now in standard format, and I think this Coco maybe won't replace it, but it can get at least pretty close to replacing it. It'll be pretty strong in the very least, I think. Especially since this Coco V from the set with Spiral Thunder is so good, and also the Coco V from Sword and Shield base set that does a clean 200 and has free retreat is also a very, very strong card. So the last slide here that we'll look at today, I just have some other Pokemon that I didn't really flesh out ideas for, but I wanted to touch on. So we have Primeape. For 2 fighting, it does 50 damage for each of your Pokemon on board that has damage counters on it, so that could do 250 for 2 energy. Fighting type is a good type to have. Bronzong allows you to move your metal energy around however you like, which is very good. Escape Rope reprints, just in case you didn't know about that. I think Escape Rope is a good card to have in the format, but it makes me wish that they made Empoleon stronger, because Empoleon could have just read, you know, shut off all of your opponent's basic Pokemon, and your opponent can just tech in Escape Rope to get around that. Cricketune, really awesome ability. I love the creativity of it. I really think of it as something I would design, as if I got to design cards, basically. So like, I completely agree with the direction they went on this card. So the ability reads, you can, once a turn you can draw until you have 3 in your hand, but if Cricketune V is the active Pokemon, you can draw until you have 4. So I love that little option that it gives you. Cherim is like Rain Dance for grass energy. You can attach as many grass energy as you want from your hand to your non-rule box Pokemon. And then Tapu Bulu would be a good partner for Cherim. For grass colorless, it does 80 plus 80 if you discard all of your energy, so you could just make a nice one prize deck out of this. Swing 160 every turn. Seems at least decent. So that's everything I have for you today in this video. Let me know what cards I didn't talk about. There are a pretty decent amount of cool cards in this set. I don't think they're all like gonna be competitive tier 1 immediately, but there's a nice amount of interesting stuff in this set, at least the Singlestrike Master, Rapidstrike Master sets. Of course, we could just assume that most of this will be our Battle Styles set in North America. But let me know what you think. Thank you for watching. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you have not already for daily Pokemon TCG content. Check out PotownStore.com for all of your PTCGO needs, and I'll see you next time here on Celio's Network.